having access to tanks. Marshals don't have a perfect image because they're sort of an unknown entity to a lot of people. They're still unknown to me.
That's fair.
So that is not a.
Also getting
Sorry, go
a
ahead.
bit off topic.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I'm not speaking for anybody, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend to have a defense. But from what I've heard, I'm not personally surprised if people are have an initial negative response.
Bro, call, sorry, bro called me yesterday. Um, she, for some reason is already questioning why I'm a marshal.
Really hard and you travel a lot and you're married with kids.
I gave her my answer
Look, I know
and
this.
she still
I went to
questioned
people's houses
why.
and walked dogs all day.
Can I ask what your?
And
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My life is spent scraping food off
I'll
plates
be
and
honest,
off of sidewalks.
um, I was short with her. Um, and I'm gonna be short with her given how we left things off. I'm just I'm I'm distancing myself because it's very clear that I'm the one who, at least for the majority of this family, has got the differing ideals. So, and proving my point, really, calling me up and questioning why I'm a cop again without even knowing the legislation or even reading it.
Um, she told me that you guys spoke. She didn't go into context. I I do want to bring this to kind of a forefront. So, first off, you don't owe
Whatever,
her.
effing coochie. Now give me an effing part.
You don't owe her any answer. You're not required to. Um, Rue was also in Sanguine. That thing I said about people who have assumptions, respectfully, me being one of them. When you hear State Department and tanks, and you're talking to somebody who dealt with a State Department and tanks, I think it's fair to say that she won't have an initial positive reaction to it.
To be clear, though, Richard mentioned she asked why he's a cop. Am I right in saying that?
I can't remember the exact specifics. No, I think she knew I was a marshal. She did know I was. She was asking. I think she said I heard you were a state marshal. So
And
she
the
was just
only
asking why. She just wanted to know why I was doing it. I said because it's the right thing. And she was like, "Yeah, but why?" And you know,
okay.
basically she was saying, "But you guys have tanks, and you know, it goes against Stadium C and the club, and yeah,
And try to hold police accountable when
right."
they screw up. Not if, but when they screw up.
That's
But
exactly
that
what I
seems
said.
to get glossed over.
I'll be honest. I'm being honest here. I called her out for having a selfish attitude because all she looked at and all I spoke to. I don't know whether I said the same thing when I spoke to Tally too. I know I think this was just rude, but this is the issue people have: is all they see is how it affects them and not how it affects the whole.
I was saying, how are you? Whatever,
Because
don't worry about
like
it.
the investigation side of things into criminal organizations, yeah, that's going to happen, but I think that primarily it's, you know, at least for me, and I think for the most part, that most of our work so far has been into the police department, and I think that's what it's mostly going to be. All the people are going to see is how it's going to affect them and that gang or that group.
I don't I don't disagree. Um, but I do think the again the point of concern, 'cause she brought up tanks, correct?
Yeah.
I haven't spoken with her about how she really feels about things. Um, she still deals with trauma, bad bad trauma from Sanguine. And it truly sounds like she's somewhat gun shy to the thought of that being next to where she is. I don't think that it's specifically the gang concern. I feel like if her concern was what you have access to, then yeah, I mean, my initial concern is why would you need tanks? Me personally, an LEO who didn't go to Sanguine for my own reasons.
I think that the simplest answer I can give is June 3rd.
Do third?
June 3rd. What happened?
I don't know.
50 civilians armed with firearms stormed City Hall. But they didn't find what they were looking for. They went to Mission Row, broke their way in, and nearly killed 10 to 12 police officers and robbed all of their equipment. That's what the APCs are for. Moments like that.
I don't
When
mean to cut this short, um, but I do have to get going.
Mhm.
And I'm just gonna. I'm. I feel it appropriate to mention this regarding Rue. Um, I can respect that you've chosen Rue, um, as your daughter. No issue with that. None. However, um, I don't see myself having any kind of relationship with Rue, nor do I wish to speak to her.
Completely
given
fair.
what's happened.
I wouldn't expect you to.
Um, I'll just leave it at that because unfortunately, uh, I don't see myself I don't see our mindsets ever being in line. Um, yeah. Plop,
Mhm.
love you.
I love you
Okay.
too.
And if you need something, please let us know.
I will. You got my word on that. Just know whatever, ends here or whatever is to the future to come up, uh, I will always love and care about you guys. And I mean that.
All right. Well, I'm gonna get going. Um, I'll leave you two to it.
Okay.
All right. Take it easy, honey. So, what's your plans now? Now you're a free man.
Yeah. You want me to be blunt with you?
Yeah, always.
I want to make sure that you are good. I want to be there for you. I'm currently working on getting to know that Mosley guy so he can teach me the ropes on being a mechanic. Because I recently got a job at Milton's. Um, and I have intentions on trying to do the things that make me happy. Because since 2021, when I got the job as an officer,
No, stay over there. I don't want to be responsible for a coronary.
I put the things that I did enjoy wherever were really things that I guess I cared about aside so that I could focus on protecting everybody and doing the job. And I couldn't tell you the last time I ever took a step back to try and find myself again. Only been 24 hours, so not going to sugarcoat it, but kind of hard to find my niche knowing that I am just starting to make fresh connections again.
What are you saying?
What do you mean?
What see, what did you leave behind? Sorry, maybe I misunderstand it. When you became an officer, what did you have to leave behind? Like you mean like tow trucking?
No, I mean, I was a tow truck driver.
Yeah.
I don't have intention on going back to it, but how much do you know about who I was before
Bring
I
your
joined the
tambourine
PD?
over and we'll like rock out.
Because I don't remember what I told you.
That was a long time ago, son.
I know.
I don't know. I mean, I don't imagine you know much, unless somebody's told you.
I mean, there's really, it's hard to say because I lost my memories, and I don't know necessarily when we started to get to know each other. But I was a mechanic up at Harmony, and I always had a passion for cars, and I always had a passion for things that I loved. And I won't lie, I've always been a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. But that's as far as I ever went. When you become an officer on this island, Ed, anybody that knows you feels like they can't. Not for anything that you did personally or I did personally. But PD has a stigma because people don't understand it. I got a job at Milton's so I can meet people, have conversations,
That's nice.
relearn about just what people do. And I'll tell you, my first day, this city's changed a lot in 5 years. It's so much more different than what I remember.
You still owe me a drink.
That's a good, good job.
It is. It's honest work. So,
Feel like there's a buck coming.
not really.
What you you were talking about being an adrenaline junkie, and then you started working at a mechanic shop. That doesn't really sound like there's a lot of adrenaline going on.
I didn't mean to gloss over it.
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
Um,
a pirate
Many years ago, I used to street race.
Word. Just no good
It was the
hindsight.
first time I ever did something that
Hold on, I can't hear
made me feel
you. Traffic in the states.
some kind of way. And it didn't hurt anybody. It was more the risk that I took and the love that I had for that. And it was one of the few times it made me happy. Because it didn't hurt anybody.
No, fish are never local.
You're not planning on
Well, Sophie, they take
doing that, are you?
barrel
Or-
somewhere. No traffic. So
I'd be
cliche.
blatantly lying to you if I didn't say I've thought about it.
Wait, later, babe.
I absolutely have thought about it. I almost caught a bullet to the head. And I was blessed with a second chance at life. And I told myself that I wanted to do the things that made me happy. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to lie to you. Because if I did, and one day I ever found myself in a predicament where you saw me, then you'd know and call me a liar. Right now, I want to be a mechanic. Right now, I want to learn how to do the job. And right now, that is what I'm doing.
Remind me again, how did Archie die? You were there that night.
I'd be lying if I didn't say I don't actually recall. That was a very hard day on duty for me.
Holy crap!
Okay. Justin DeMarco. Remember that one? Same night?
When I got on duty, I got a call from Maeve, and DeMarco had already been deceased. When I got there, I was informed about Archie. He was after DeMarco. I don't know what happened with DeMarco. When he was killed, I had gotten on duty about an hour after that all happened.
Without going into any details, both of them were hit by speeding vehicles. And they died.
Hey, I haven't seen you at the Epsilon training. You okay?
So to say that street racing can't hurt anybody is, well, that's false. I'm not saying that they died in a street race, but you heard about Forte?
Did I forget about Forte?
I said, did you hear about 4J?
Yeah, 3 times accomplice attempted murder.
Mm-hmm.
Forte was always a fucking nut.
What do you think about him now?
I think I'm not shocked that he went and did exactly what that man was always capable of.
What do you think the police think about him?
I don't think he cares.
No, what do you think the police think about 4J?
He's a cog in a wheel that got replaced. The police probably don't like him.
What do you think the police think about Suarez?
Not a clue.
What do you think about Suarez?
I think I haven't seen him in 7 years.
You think about doing criminal activity while you're a cop?
Every single chase was exciting. But no, I did not.
You know your brother was killed by a cop, right?
Come over anytime after 7. This homebrew will kick your little ass. I promise.
I know he was killed.
It's a raw vegetable app, a raw vegetable entree, and some kind of vegetable dessert.
He was shot in the back of the head by Brian Knight. You start going down this road, you're putting yourself in that same position.
I'm sorry, I've been loca so busy.
Because there's always going to be cops like Brian Knight. Trigger happy cops.
Listen, why don't we go shopping at Deals and Dollars?
Like Brian Knight, Kyle Pred.
Don't you work with Pred?
You're fired.
But did you take the job knowing he worked there?
Yeah, I did. That was part of the reason, actually. Because I didn't trust anybody else to keep an eye on him. And between you and me, you know what my first case was? Investigating Kyle Bread.
Never call me back the next day.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Can you remind me how me doing something that I haven't even done yet, and the results of this conversation is that I'm gonna get shot in the back of the head for it after 3 weeks ago I had a gun held to the back of my fucking head, and I had to call and say goodbye to my family. For you to say that to me,
Because, Sean,
no. Nope. I want you to think about what you just said to me.
I have and I will. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it. Because I don't want you turning into another TJ Walker. Because look where he's ended up. So if you hate me for this, so be it. But at least you'll be alive.
No. You know the difference? You know the difference between TJ and the comparison that you just made?
What's that?
The man sitting as a city council member was shot, and over 50 people drove to commemorate that man. Can you say the same for Aziz? Can you say the same for Rooker? Look where that ended up. I will always fucking love you. And that will never change. The comparison of being shot in the back of the head is the last thing I need right now.
Some pills are hard to swallow.
Mr. Famershane. My vintage.
But if you're thinking about doing crime already, I'm worried.
No, it was classic, man. A Woody.
Then be worried.
Oh, honey. I hate to say it, but I knew he was gonna cheat on your ass. Okay, you bring this on yourself and you know it, okay? The problem is, you just trust too much. The only way to be happy in love, girl, is to be suspicious of every word the motherfucker says.
Hey,
Hey.
oh, okay, what's going on?
I need to talk to you.
Okay, what what's happening? What's the matter?
I was honest with my father. That's what happened.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Where are you at?
Currently going through Legion Square.
Okay. All right. Do you have a car?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there somewhere you want to park up?
Do you have a car?
I do. I can drop my car off wherever. I don't care.
I want to make this clear. What I tell you
Mm.
is between us.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I'm sorry. I almost got a car accident. Okay. Yeah, of course.
Meet me, I don't even know. Just anywhere.
Okay.
Just pick a
Shit.
spot.
Yeah. Drop my car. Where can I drop my car? You wouldn't be comfortable with zipping up to the house, or?
Probably the only place I want to be right now.
Okay. All right. Fuck it. Let's go to the house.
All right. I'll see you in a minute.
All right. I'll see you there. just got off the phone with Kizu. She said that Richard, after she dropped you off or dropped somebody off or something, Richard just canceled his doctor's appointment.
Just now.
After saying that he was, still had trouble speaking or was, confused about some things, and he just texted her and said to cancel it. He's fine.
I'm having I don't know if I'll ever be honest with my father again after that conversation.
What happened? What?
It was Richard and Matt, and I wanted to talk to them alone. I didn't mean to delay your text or your calls.
You're fine. You could do whatever you want.
We talked about me retiring. We went back and forth. Matt said that he doesn't know if he'll ever want to have a relationship with Rue, and I said that is completely up to him. Matt said he had to go. I spoke with Richard one-on-one, and I got the age-old question what my plans were. And I told him that I got a job at Milton's, and then I had full plans on working with Mr. Mosley to try and figure out how to do the job. When I asked him, I said, I won't lie to you, because if I did, then that would hurt anything between us. I asked him what I've told him about my past, because I don't remember. And it was very minimal. And I told him that I used to be an adrenaline junkie, but that right now I was focusing my career being a mechanic. And he asked why I glossed over it, and I said I used to street race. I said it was one of the few times in my life that I was happy. It gave me a feeling like no other. He asked if I knew what happened to Archie Archer. He asked me if I knew what happened to DeMarco. I didn't remember. That day was incredibly fucking traumatic. He said that they were both hit by cars and that my innocence on doing it because I enjoyed it and it hurt nobody was false. And I was okay with that. And I was going to tell him that that's something that I understand. And he then asked me if I knew what happened to Cody. And he told me that Brian Knight shot him in the back of the head. And then he asked me what the PD must have thought about I don't even remember. I was so pissed off. But he pretty much went down a line of ex-officers and he asked me what he thought the PD thought of those people. And I told him just more cogs in a wheel. Richard then told me, I mute my phone.
You know, I'll do the same. This is Iris. I'm just gonna tell him that I'm busy.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's okay. Hey, I'm chatting with Flop. I'm gonna be a little bit. Yeah. Sorry. Go do your thing. Go have fun. I'll be around for a while. So. Okay. Later. Okay. Sorry.
You're fine. He went on to explain that all these officers were probably looked at negatively by the PD. And Richard admitted that there are people in the PD who are trigger happy. And that I would end up with a bullet in the back of my head if I went down this road.
That's
And
crazy to me. Sorry.
hold on.
Sorry. No. Okay.
No.
Yep.
This goes nowhere, so help me God. I do not want anything going back on Richard for what I'm about to say to you. He then looked at me and said, I don't want you to end up like another TJ. Being shot. And I fucking lost it. And I told him that the government employee in a closed room was shot. And I told him that the difference between TJ and the police department was that TJ got recognition. With over 50 people commemorating that man's life. I said to him that not only one, the disease not get any recognition, but Rooker did not either. And I told him that it was completely sinister and fucked up for him to assume that I were to have a bullet in the back of my head 3 weeks after I had guns held to me simply for being a fucking officer. And then Richard doubled down and said that it's a harsh truth, but I'm worried about this path. And I ended it by telling him to then worry about it. And I walked away.
You know, it's fucking. Yeah, you know, and maybe this is maybe this is his fucking brain injury talking for him right now. But I mean, I sort of am inclined to not believe that because, I mean, this has gone on for years, decades at this point. A cop killed his mom. A cop killed his son. Because you were a cop, you were almost killed. TJ went into a governmental position that was, I mean, he literally stayed out of everything club related because he wanted to do better for the city, and he was killed. I don't know what the high horse that he is riding, it doesn't fucking exist. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I gave up. I was honest with my father, and I gave up. I said, then worry about it.
I'm sorry. Rhodes was there. He said, what, a couple of things and then fucked off?
Matt
To
ended.
do what?
He wanted to know about my retirement. He wanted to briefly speak about what happened with Rue. And he ended it by saying that he loved me and that he supported my decision because the PD was a quote-unquote meat grinder, but that there were 3 cops around and he had to go.
Okay.
I'm giving Rhodes a defense on this. He was actually
Sure.
okay.
All right.
But when Matt walked away, Richard told me to pretty much shove it up my ass. I don't care what the people who quit or left. I don't care what the PD thinks about them. If anybody in that place was my fucking friend, they don't have to agree with it. But as long as they know that I am happier for it. And to hear my father tell me that my life of being an adrenaline junkie was going to end with me with a bullet in the back of my head. Was everything. Ending up like another fucking TJ. The difference is that TJ got recognition. TJ was respected. And if the PD had announced their respect, they would have respected their own. And they didn't. And I almost became another fucking statistic for that PD. And I wasn't about to be that.
I'm torn between like okay, so yesterday I texted Richard a few times. Because I hadn't heard from him in a while, and I was, I had heard about him getting the job at the Marshall station. So I texted him. I said, congrats on the job. I know it's a big deal, and I don't want to downplay that. You'll be an incredible asset to them. I followed up with, I do fear that instead of processing things, you've instead dove back into work to avoid it, though. I know it's not easy to process this shit, so I get it. I'm here for you. The unresponsiveness for these texts, because he hadn't replied to me. So the unresponsiveness for these texts sort of gives weight to that claim. Do you think distancing yourself will make it hurt less or be easier? I hope not, because it certainly doesn't. You really need to talk to Flop, regardless of what you're thinking or anything that occurs. You're still family to me. He didn't reply to any of that. I called him later because I saw a bunch of cops over at the marshal's office, and King came up to me and said that somebody had been shooting at the marshal's office, which means Richard, because I knew Richard was there. So I called him to check in on him, just to see that he was okay. He answered. It was a very short phone call. He didn't really talk to me about much. I said that or I said I already knew who likely was doing it, because I did. But I asked him, I was like, is this going to be like a continued issue? Like, are you going to be safe? And he said, frankly, that's Marshall business. I said, oh, I mean, of course, that's
His safety
understandable, but
is martial business.
right. He ended the phone
You know
call
what I
shortly
asked him?
thereafter.
Because he tried spiting me for doing something that was frowned upon. I asked him, I said, didn't you join the marshals with Kyle Pred there? And he told me something that, out of respect, although I'm going to reconsider that after processing whatever the fuck just happened, refrain from stating what he told me. But I do not, under any circumstance, have any idea how to process being spat on because I chose to finally do something that made me happy. I thought, regardless of how he'll react, he'll understand I'm doing it because it makes me happy.
Mm.
And at first, it was enough to burden. But when he compared me to TJ, he compared me to just ending up with another bullet in the back of my head. How the fuck do you process that? Because I can't.
Hmm. Listen,
Mind you, by the way,
Hmm.
government employee in a locked fucking room.
Yeah. Um. you. So I know that I'm not, uh, absolved of, having done bad things or morally deplorable shit. Um. But Richard is a hypocrite. And for him to, like I said, you know, to imply or even try to speak to you from, a proverbial high horse. Uh, it is unjust. He does his best to seek just that. So. Hmm. I so badly